Oh my gosh. Okay, obviously I was really agitated with Bloodborne, so I might stop it there. I'm probably gonna play it offline. I'm not gonna stream it to see if I can even get past that point, which isn't even really that difficult. But like today we're gonna read Terms and Conditions by Scroll. What's her face? Violet Doe. I just saw her right there. Lady right there. It says I can read it in 11 minutes, but you know, guys, we're gonna see. Also, another thing that I hate about the app is that it doesn't show you how many stars it gets. And, or at least I don't think it does. This one has, I'm gonna say the stars. This one has 8.2 stars, and it was made 11 hours ago. Actually, that was voted by 28 people, but we're gonna ignore that. So, okay, I'll ignore you. I'm reading it. I'll talk over you. How about that? Okay. It was early January when Jack walked through the large, ornate doors of Lucky Seven's casino and hotel. It was a cold morning or what passes for cold in Las Vegas anyway, and he took a deep breath of warm air as he stepped inside. He was immediately overcome with a feeling of nostalgia and excitement. Let me just move my chair. Jack had spent practically every waking hour in his casino for years after his mother died. He had grown up an only child in a small house in Georgia. Hey, Georgia's near me, let's go. He never knew his father, but his mother was an amazing woman and had managed to provide them with everything they needed. When she unexpectedly passed away of a stroke just after Jack's 21st birthday, he was devastated and couldn't stand to live alone, surrounded by memories. He sold the house and with his meager inheritance moved across the country to Las Vegas to make a new start. He rented a cheap apartment downtown, and his first night there, feeling lost and alone, he'd wander into the casino. I said that weird, but we're gonna ignore that. Casino. Casano. Yeah, totes. On a whim, he sat down at the first slot machine by the door, put in I can't even read. I don't know what it is when I actually look at words, but like my mind's just like, no. Put in a $10 bill. Is dyslexic? I'm not dyslexic though, so. My dad is. The font? I have no idea. I think it's every time because I'm reading, you'll hear it. Like, I'm reading really, really, really fast, and then that's when I trip over my words. I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Apparently I'm reading too fast, so I'm gonna be like slower. Put in a $10 bill and press buttons until something happened. As it turned out, what happened was that the machine lit up with flashing lights and his $10 turned into $1,000. Before he could even understand what happened, from that moment on, Jack was hooked. A couple years after he moved, he met a beautiful cocktail waitress named Lisa. That's my mom's name. Information. She was a waitress when she was younger, actually. But obviously she's not a waitress now. But my mom's name is Lisa, so hey. I even messed up. That's sad. They got along great, and for a few months, they saw each other almost every day. At first, he took her on dates, but they quickly became content to just lay in Jack's bed, enjoying each other and forgetting about the rest of the world. There was one thing Jack could never really forget about, though, and that was the slot machines. At first, he only gambled while she was working anyway, but after the newness of the relationship started to wear off, he would stay at the casino later and later. Lisa was a patient woman, but she grew tired of being blown off night after night as Jack sat mindlessly staring at a machine. Eventually, she gave him an ultimatum. Cool. Me or gambling? Uh-oh. I would have been like, obviously you. I mean, I was gonna say something, but then I stopped myself because, you know, that's how addiction is, so. He adored her, but he simply could not pull himself away from the slot machines, and so she left. That's so sad. Why? That hashtag rejected. With Lisa gone, Jack's gambling problem became worse than ever. He felt like he had nothing else to live for, so he would spend all his time at the casino, sometimes not even going home to shower or sleep for days. His savings had dwindled down to practically nothing, but that only made him gamble more. He was determined to hit a jackpot that would make everything better. Everything changed when Lisa knocked on his door one morning in the early spring. He never thought he'd see her again and stared silently at her face in disbelief. Before he could say anything, she thrust the bundle she held in her arms toward him and said 2 words, "She's yours." Oh no, man, that's great. That's great. The baby lying peacefully in Lisa's arms had gazed up at Jack with the most strikingly beautiful emerald green eyes he'd ever seen. In that moment, he vowed to turn his life around. He had begged Lisa to take him back and make them a family. She was understandably hesitant, but after he got a real job and rented a nice 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood, she agreed to move in with him. Dealing with his gambling addiction was beyond difficult, but he forced himself to do it. For his daughter, she was worth it. Did they not get a blood test or anything? He just assumed. But okay. Yeah, but you always get a blood test, for sure. She could be like, hey, here's your baby, and then it'd be like legit some guy she met down the street. Totes. Yeah, but that's different, because, like, it's kind of obvious. Those were the best years of Jack's life. He loved Kylie more than he ever thought possible. She was bright and creative and friendly. He hardly believed he'd created such a perfect little girl. Just after Christmas, when Kylie was 5, she started to complain about headaches. At first, they just thought she was coming down with a cold or something. But it wasn't long before what seemed like a normal headache had graduated to her lying on the ground screaming in pain. They rushed her to the ER and waited silently, just holding each other. While Kylie was taken into the back for tests, finally the doctor came out with a grim look on his face. It was a brain tumor. They could ease her pain, but she was going to need surgery. Surgery that would cost over $100,000. That was more than Jack could make if he saved every penny for 3 years. The next day was bleak as Jack and Lisa just sat and shot beside Kylie's hospital bed. Eventually, Lisa argued that there was nothing they could do right then, and they agreed it would make sense to take turns going home to shower and get some sleep. At her request, Jack went first while Lisa stayed with Kylie. He kissed them both, then got in his car and started driving. But instead of heading home, he found himself driving to the last place he should go. 10 minutes later, he found himself there, at Lucky Sevens for the first time in years. Jack sat down at the most private slot machine he could find. Tucked in a corner, darker than most of the casino, he didn't know if any of his old gambling buddies still hung out there, but he didn't want to find out. The machine was called a Devil's Choice. Weird theme, he thought, but whatever. As he slid $20 in the slot and the image of a Karuni? Sure. Or Karuni, one of the two. But oddly creepy. Why didn't they just say cartoony? Wouldn't that have been easier to say? But oddly creepy devil winked at him, then disappeared, and was replaced by the familiar 5 columns of symbols. Some were pictures of predictable things like pitchforks. Some were numbers, and others were symbols he didn't recognize. His first 2 tries landed him nothing. But on the third, the screen lit up bonus round. Would you like to continue? The crimson letters read, "What the hell?" Oh, would you like to continue? The crimson letters read, "What the hell?" thought Jack briefly, immediately pressing the continue button. Who the hell wouldn't want a chance for a bonus? The cartoon devil reappeared and walked across the screen, and as he did so, The 5 columns turned into 3. The devil leaned against the edge of the screen, and the script appeared in a bubble by his head. I see you need money. Again, Jack felt a twinge of annoyance through his excitement. Who the hell doesn't need money? He pressed the button and the column spawned for what felt like forever, but the first stopped 6. Then the next 6. Jack held his breath until he felt like he'd pass out, and at the last one slowed and came to a halt. 6. Jack smiled in disbelief. At the matching row in front of him, 666, the cartoon devil smiled too as the dollar amount below his feet shot up. The ticker raced up from tens to hundreds to thousands, finally setting down at $200,000. It was too good to be true. That wasn't enough to pay for all the Kylie's medical bills with the money to spare. He felt tears spring to his eyes as he silently thanked a God he wasn't even sure he believed in. On the screen, a scroll had appeared over the columns with paragraphs full of tiny text. At the bottom read, "Do you accept the terms and conditions?" He had never seen something like that on a slot machine before, but chalked it up to some kind of new law. Since last he played, adrenaline pumping, he didn't bother to read a word of it. He just hit the accept button so hard that for a moment he was scared he broke it. A moment later, the screen returned to the original 5 columns. Jack waited a minute, expecting the kind of fanfare that usually comes with such a large jackpot. But nothing came. No flashing lights, no loud music, just the 6-digit number sitting at the bottom of the screen. With a shaking hand, he reached and pressed the button to cash out. The voucher printed with the usual casino logo at the top, followed by a barcode, some validation numbers, then the amount $200,013 below. That was written, "You have 3 hours." He'd never seen that before. Usually it read something like void after 30 days. But again, he figured it must be some kind of new law. And more than that, he didn't care. I didn't say that excitingly, but we're going to ignore that. He wouldn't need close to 3 hours. He was cashing out right now and getting back to the hospital as soon as humanly possible. Grabbing the ticket, he ran into the cashier again. He expected some kind of fanfare over such a large win, but the cashier who took his ticket looked at it nonchalantly, typed something into the computer in front of her, then handed him his, I think it meant in front of him, but we're going to go with that, then handed him his winnings with a fake smile and a have a nice day, sir. They know, you know what, they know that the machine is evil, and they're not surprised because so many people win things from them, and they know they're probably going to get screwed over at the end. So they're like, oh, it's another one of these guys. Yeah, pretty much. Jack wasted no time running out the door and driving back to the hospital, with a quick stop at the bank, of course. He was practically bursting to tell Lisa the good news, but when he looked in Kylie's room, Lisa was fast asleep in the chair by her bed. Instead of waking her, Jack went back out to the hospital's main desk and informed the attendant of his situation. A few minutes later, he was signing forms to go ahead with Kylie's surgery and anything else she may need. He stuck his copy of the forms into his pocket and headed... Why don't they just move to Canada? No, actually, they need to wait like a year to actually get free hospital stuff. So never mind. Like, if you moved to Canada, your problems would all be solved. I think, yeah, pretty sure. Pretty much. It's not that hard. It's just like, hey, after a year, you pretty much everything's in the hospital is free, I believe. That's what I've heard. Really? Well, that's interesting. I think America is just like, nope, you gotta pay us. Pretty much. I can't really... No, Lindsay, stop typing me, girl. My goodness. You need... John, if you talk like this in real life, you need to talk louder because y'all can tell this is how I act in real life. Like, legit, like the loudest person ever in school. Don't... Hey now. Rude. I don't care. Where Where was I? How many minutes are we in, you guys? 14 minutes? You know, that's nice. I think we're almost done, though. Where am I? He stuck his copy of the forms into his pocket and headed back to Kylie's room. As much as he wanted to wake Lisa, he decided to let her have her much-needed sleep. Instead, he tucked the slip from his deposit at the bank under his arm so it would be the first thing she saw when she woke up. Then he sat down in the chair next to her. After all the excitement, he didn't expect to be able to fall asleep. But soon sheer exhaustion overtook him, and he felt himself start to nod off. Jack awoke with an aching back. He slowly remembered the events of the morning and falling asleep in the hotel chair. As he sat up in the chair and stretched, he smiled with a sense of peace that he hadn't felt since Kylie's headaches started. He gradually opened his eyes and saw Devil's Choice. Stunned, he looked around the casino. This was impossible, wasn't it? Was it all just a dream? Something occurred to him, and he has to... That's not how you say that. I think that's supposed to say hastily, but they forgot a T. Hastily What even words are these? Pod. Sure, okay, that's pod. I'm just dumb. Hastily pawed at the pocket of his pants. I'm dumb. I can't even. My face is just, no. Let's try that again. Hastily pawed at the pocket of his pants. Alliteration. Thank you for messing me up. A paper. The hospital document, right where he remembered putting it this morning. It was real. In a confused panic, he sprinted for the exit. He wove through slot machines and avoided people, none of whom seemed to even acknowledge him. Heart pounding in his throat, he ran for the door, only to find himself inadvertently slowing down. At first, he thought it was just in his head, and the panic was screwing with his mind, but the closer he got to the door, the more obvious it became. It was as if a strong wind was blowing straight at him. He couldn't feel it, and no one else seemed affected, but he was powerless to fight against it. About 20 feet from the door, he started to slide backward. With each step, as much as he fought, he couldn't get within 10 feet of the door. Jack spent that first week frantically trying to find a way out. Every door was inaccessible to him, and every window felt like a brick wall. He pleaded for help, screamed and begged, but no one could see him. They just looked right through him and kept walking. I guess he sold his soul to the devil, and he didn't realize it, probably. Although he could touch objects, nothing reacted to his touch. He couldn't write, phones were useless to him, and no electronics responded to him. Except one. He could still use his slot machine, but now all the devil would say is, "You want to play?" He tried for a while, and he could theoretically win money, but trapped inside Lucky Sevens with no way of contacting the outside world, that did him no good. He kept hoping for another bonus round, an explanation, or a loophole, but none ever came. Weeks passed, then months. At first, Jack would slip behind the front desk to look at the date, but after a while, it stopped mattering to him. Years passed, and his only solace was that Kylie was okay. He'd gotten enough money for her for the best medical treatment, and she must be happy and healthy now. He imagined what she might look like, what she might be doing. He imagined her going to school and making artwork, or maybe learning soccer. She was always such a bright girl, and now that she'd be free of the brain tumor, the world was her oyster. The casino was his home now, or more accurately, his prison. He couldn't interact with people, and even though they couldn't see him, they seemed to instinctively know to avoid him. They would walk around him, occasionally complaining of a chill in the air, but more often continuing on as if nothing happened. He didn't need to eat or drink anymore, but mercifully he could still sleep. He would follow the maids into the hotel room upstairs and lay down when they were done making the bed, trying to sleep away as many hours as he could. He would dream of being free, of running along the beach or playing basketball. Sometimes he would dream of being home with Lisa and Kylie, just eating dinner or snuggled up watching TV. Those were his favorite dreams. Years passed. Jack lost track of how many. It hardly seemed to matter. The only difference was when he was down in the casino, wasting the day away, people watching, he noticed some changes in style. That's cool. I like how they mentioned that. And that they carry new technology. First smaller phones, then bigger ones. A regular customer who'd come to watch almost daily as she played blackjack and chatted with the car dealers announced she was getting married. Then she came in less after she got pregnant, but reappeared later announcing she divorced. Life went on for everyone but Jack. It wasn't unusual for Jack to wake up and find someone had checked into the room he'd been sleeping in. He never seemed to bother them other than the occasional complaint about the cold. He couldn't unlatch the door, but he would try to slip out of the room as soon as anyone opened it, even knowing he was invisible, but he still felt weird invading someone's privacy. One day he awoke to find a rather homely older man sitting on the edge of the bed. Jack stood up and stretched, getting ready to leave whenever an opportunity presented itself. As luck would have it, a knock came on the door only a few moments later. The homely man rose to his feet with a grunt. How did I lose myself? That's crazy. And Jack positioned himself by the door, ready to slip out. The man unlocked the door, and Jack looked up to see the most beautiful blonde-haired girl. He assumed she must be over 18, but not by much. She was a little too thin in an unhealthy-looking way, but other than that, she was gorgeous. She turned toward him, and Jack saw her pupil. I can't talk. My tongue's like dying. Jack saw her pupils were tiny, pinholed with obvious drug use. But that's not what struck him. Her eyes were the most beautiful shade of emerald green. So his daughter does drugs. Great. What a great daughter. Jack felt his heart stop. It couldn't be her, could it? He completely forgot about exiting the room and stared at the girl's face. He pictured his sweet little Kylie and tried to picture her as a teenager. The girl certainly had similar features, but why on earth would Kylie be here? The old man leered at her with lusty approval, and with an awkward greeting, he handed her a wad of bills. She giggled teasingly, and oh, she's a whore. That's great. And pulled the clip out of her long hair, letting it fall around her shoulders. That's when Jack noticed a scar curving along her scalp from brain surgery. His daughter's a whore, and she does drugs. Good job, Jack. Jack felt like he was going to throw up, despite not having eaten in years. He ran into the bathroom and fell to his knees sobbing. He covered his ears and tried to drown out the sounds as a disgusting old man violated his precious little girl. So his daughter's literally a whore. Literally, like, what's it called? It's not... So the casino, I'm guessing, has a special room. Or no, he probably paid her to be there, and she fucked him in the casino. Oh, wait, I can't say that word, can I? Effed him in the casino place. And his daughter does that for money and probably uses the money to get drugs, like he used the money at the casino. So that's nice. When the horrid deed was finally done, Jack plodded back into the bedroom. Kylie wasted no time in grabbing her handbag and heading for the door. Jack followed. Wait, John, did you say something? What'd you say? No. Say it now. No, just say I heard you and I can't hear you and it's not fair. I'm curious now. Go ahead and say it. Okay, you're talking to someone else. Cools. Grabbing her handbag and headed for the door. Jack followed. As soon as she was out of the door, she let the fake smile fall from her face. She looked miserable and desperate. Well, duh. I mean, she does drugs. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what your face usually looks like. Jack hurried to keep up as she ran down a flight of stairs and into the main casino. She reached into her handbag for something and tucked it into her fist. She glanced toward the ladies' room, currently with a large out-of-order sign on the door. Then scan the casino. I can't even. Her eyes fell on the darkest corner, the one that housed Devil's Choice. Kylie sat down at the machine after taking a quick glance around her to make sure no one was watching her. She opened her hand to reveal a small baggie of white powder. She does cocaine. Good job, Kylie. Good job. That's great. She stuck a long fingernail into the... Okay, so she gets paid in drugs and money. Not a lot. Or... pretty much. I don't know. Yeah, you can say vagina. I mean, it's the technical. It's like whatever. As long as you don't be like, you know, the words for it. She stuck a long fingernail into the powder then leaned over the machine, hiding what she was doing with her other hand. That sounded really perverted, but I think she means she snorted it, I think. Correct? Sure. Let me read that again, because that sounded really weird. She stuck a long fingernail into the powder, then leaned over the machine, hiding what she was doing with her other hand. I don't know what that means. I don't know what she was doing. Yeah, it said she stuck her fingernail into the cocaine, I'm guessing, then leaned over the machine, hiding what she was doing with her other hand. Okay. Jack watched in horror as she fell to the floor a moment later. Her beautiful green eyes rolled back into her head, and her breathing slowed to a terrifyingly low, raspy moan. In desperation, Jack, I was about to say drove. Jack dove, I could either, yes, dove. Yes, okay. In desperation, Jack dove to the only object that had responded to him in years, Devil's Choice. He pounded his fist on the buttons, and almost immediately the cartoon devil appeared and walked across the screen. Winking, the devil leaned against the edge of the screen. This time, the bubble by his head read, "I see you need something more important than money." "Yes," he screamed at the machine, slamming the buttons again. 666. On the screen, the familiar scroll appeared, full of tiny text at the bottom read, "Do you accept the terms and conditions?" Jack desperately wanted to read what he was agreeing to this time, but he glanced down at Kylie, and her skin was starting to turn blue. He didn't give it another thought. He pressed accept almost immediately. Why? What's up with the alliteration? Stop. That would be great. It's only two words. A pair of paramedics appeared and sprinted toward Kylie. They leaned over his precious baby girl, and after the longest wow, I can't even, of his life, he heard one declare, "She's stable." They loaded her onto a stretcher, and he watched through eyes clouded with tears as they carried her out the door. He stared after her until he heard the ambulance siren fade into the distance. Then he numbly turned back toward the machine. Another ticket had printed. This time the ticket had printed out had no barcode and no numbers, just 4 words. "You have 3 hours." I know what the note meant. You know, it meant that he had 3 hours to be in the real world, I would assume, because remember, he went to the hospital. He thought he meant 3 hours to spend the money, but it was 3 hours to be with his family, or to be alive, like, per se, be in the real world, for everyone to see him again. So he has 3 hours to see his daughter and his wife, pretty much. That's interesting. That's a good story. I really like that story. I get it now. That was fun. That was great. That was such a good story. I'm going to end it right there. Tomorrow I might find another story. Woo! So we will see. How long? 30 minutes for reading slower. But that's okay. 30 minutes for an 11-minute story. This is real sad. But that's okay. I think they're lying about the reading time. I really think so. but I don't know.